Eberechi Eze, he is a player that Arsenal have been linked with this transfer window, and would he fit at Arsenal? Now, he is a player that a lot of Arsenal fans are begging for him to come to the club, especially with Eze being a former Arsenal player, someone who's played through the academy but unfortunately was let go. But he is a guy with strong resilience. He's a guy with a great mentality, because to go through those hardships, to go through those periods in time where it was very difficult for him, and to go to Crystal Palace and do what he's done and help them win the FA Cup, a cup that's probably the biggest cup they've ever won in their entire history as a club. He is a player that Arsenal fans are literally and hopefully wanting for this guy to come to the club, essentially. Now, for me, with Eze, I just want to give a bit of a breakdown, an in-depth analysis on who the hell this guy is and what he could potentially give to Arsenal should he come to the club. Now, let's just break it down. So in terms of his age, he's 27 years old. He's born in 98. He's around 1.78 meters. So I would say he's just like 5'11 to 6 foot. So in terms of the height, he fits the bill in terms of an Arteta player. As his position, he's somebody who plays in attacking midfield, and he can play as a left winger, and he can literally play between those two positions, and that is something that Arsenal need in terms of a backup to Martin Ødegaard, and not even a backup, somebody who can challenge Martin Ødegaard and push Martin Ødegaard to do well on the pitch, because the minute that Martin Ødegaard doesn't perform as well, Eze can come in and provide that different option and potentially take his place, and that is the sort of competition we need in all positions at Arsenal. I know Ødegaard is a player that many people are fond of. He's the captain of the club, but that does not mean that there shouldn't be competition in every single position at the club, no matter who you are. And with Eze in the number 10 spot, he's a guy that's really going to challenge Ødegaard, and not just in the 10 in the attacking midfield position. He could also be in the left wing spot as well, challenging Martinelli or challenging Trossard, and with Trossard potentially in the club, that's here nor there. But he's a guy that can also play left wing. Now, he is not ideally a left wing player, but he's a guy that can play there. But it's going to be an issue of whether long term he's going to play in that position, or whether he's going to be in his confirmed known space position as a number 10, as an attacking midfielder. But we're just going to have to wait and see, considering if Eze does decide to come to Arsenal. Now, in terms of some attributes about him, he's a strong dribbler, he takes shot from distance, he's a creative passer, all things you'd expect from a midfielder, and he's the type of guy that just tries to do these flary moves, do things out of nowhere. He is that sort of player with a bit of tech to him. That's what he's essentially going to bring to Arsenal. In terms of some of the stats in this last season, 34 appearances, 8 goals, 8 assists. So overall in 34 games, you can expect 1 in every 2 games he's going to give you a goal or assist, which is pretty much good stuff, especially from somebody who is in midfield. Now, he's a reliable creative force with a goal threat. However, he is a bit erratic when it comes to his shot selection, especially when he does decide to shoot from far. So it can be quite erratic, he can miss quite a bit, and I'm not sure if that is what Arteta would want, especially with how he's been dealing with Ødegaard and how he's been telling him to shoot less. We're not sure with Eze whether he's going to do a similar thing, or whether that will fit into Arteta's system or way, because we all see with Arteta's system, especially last season, that he just wants to get the ball to the wing. And I'm not sure with Eze, he will just shoehorn him and just tell him to do the same thing, or allow Eze to have a bit more freedom to shoot the ball and to be creative and to just do his thing with the ball. Those are all things that people need to consider and people need to watch out on, especially if Eze were to come to Arsenal, on whether or not he would have that same sort of freedom. And that is something Arteta really needs to give him, in my opinion, for him to be a success. But overall, as somebody who is 27 years old, he is pretty much in the prime of his life as a footballer. He's probably going to give Arsenal a good 3 to 4 good seasons, in my opinion, especially with someone of that age bracket. He is the same age bracket as a lot of the other players in the team, someone with a lot of experience, someone who's dealt with a lot of adversity, so will have that mental edge that could possibly help the teams move forward, especially when there are games where it's a bit tough, where there's a lot of mental mentally there's a lot of things going on. He's the type of guy that could possibly take Arsenal over the edge. Now, in terms of tactically, he provides depth that I think there's no shadow of a doubt about that, and he works well in tight spaces. He's an intelligent off the ball runner, and maybe if Arteta wanted wanted to, he could play as an 8 and Ødegaard can play, both of them can play together and both be number 10s on the pitch. Maybe that might be something that Arteta may decide to do. Now, Arsenal have had talks and the price is between £60 million to 68 million, which is pretty much his release clause, with the potential to be paid in installments. So that is all something that Arsenal needs to think about. And there is competition with Bayern Munich and Tottenham Hotspur. So there are clubs clearly going after him. Now, the question is that whether he's going to accept being a rotational player coming off the bench, or is he going to be a starter? Now, those are things that Arsenal really need to think about. And I think it's just a case of, if Eze were to come to the club, what sort of role is he going to have and what sort of promises that are Arsenal going to give him, because we're just going to see what happens moving forward, especially when there will be a competition for the positions that he will want to play in. Now, a lot of people believe that he could solve the left wing problem, and with his creativity and shooting, he will help Arsenal with the press. And at 27 years old, he's pretty much at the peak of his career, and he is somebody that can help Arsenal in the here and now. He will bring flair, he will bring creativity, he's tactically flexible, he's played in the Premier League pretty much his entire career, so he knows what to do in the Prem. In the Champions League though, I don't think he's ever played in it before, but now's a good opportunity and I think he will relish in it and he'll be really motivated to play in those games. But yeah, I think in terms of elite ball carrying and dribbling, he's pretty much among the top 5 players in Europe, funnily enough, and he can move into tight spaces and he's great for dealing with low blocks, something that's been a main concern for Arsenal last season. So that's really good. In terms of dribbles completed, he's better than Martin Ødegaard and he's a bit more closer to Leroy Sané. In terms of chance creation, he's quite comparable to Phil Foden. He's not the most flashiest of dribblers, but he will definitely create high quality chances, something that Arsenal really need. And he's homegrown, we don't need to worry about adaptation. He'll fit into Arsenal and fit into the Premier League like that, and he'll be able to help the quota as well, which will be important for registering Premier League or Champions League squads. So now if we were to look at some of the issues that Eze has in terms of shot selection, he often shoots from not the best of places, so it's going to be interesting to see how Arteta deals with that or completely removes that altogether, in which in my opinion may not be the best thing. Defensively, he's not as great as say Martinelli and Trossard. He doesn't provide that same sort of work rate, so that's also something that people really need to think about in terms of how players really press the opposition. I'm not sure if Eze will be able to do that to the same level. He does have inconsistency where he does have purple patches and quiet periods, and he tends to be better in open games and less so against deep blocks. And the thing is with Arsenal, especially with the where they are there right now, they need to be consistent, and with Eze it's the question of whether he will be giving in consistent performances week in week out. Now in terms of injury record, he's missed 3 to 4 weeks at different points between last season and the previous season, so he does have injuries here and there, and there is concerns about whether he will be physically durable enough to last the entire season, especially with a club like Arsenal where there's injuries left, right and center. But in terms of ball progression, he's better than statistically guys like Maddison. He lags a bit behind Foden, but he does have more flair than Ødegaard. Defensively, he's not as good compared to the current starters at the club, so maybe unless if he's tactically coached and he's helped in that regard, then maybe that could be fixed, and we're just gonna have to wait and see with that. And he's a cheaper option compared to someone like Olise or Foden, and he's definitely more Premier League ready compared to players from foreign clubs around the world. So overall, he is a versatile creator who can definitely give Arsenal something different, which is something that's needed. He can play number 10, he can play left wing, and he can be a plan B against low blocks or deep blocks. And while he's not really a like for like player such as Saka or Martinelli, he's more of a creator compared to being a high pressing winger. And the thing is, I think this is a good thing because Arsenal need players that are different, players that can give you different solutions to different problems, and not just have the same sort of profile in every position. Because while you have the same profile and while you may believe in a certain system, maybe you just need something a bit different. And I think with Eze, with the type of player he is, he can provide something for Arsenal that's a bit different and something that can really catch the opposition off guard, especially when it comes to games where it's 0-0, the current formation isn't working, the current tactics aren't working. He can come in and provide something different and help Arsenal win games from that. So whether or not he will be able to play the whole 40 games, I don't think with his injury record, it's not looking likely. But could he possibly do something for 25, 30 games or something like that? That is something that Eze could definitely do. So overall, Eze, like the rest of the Arsenal fans, I want to see him come home. It will be a great story to see him come back to the Emirates and really play at Arsenal, and especially at a club where he was at when he was a kid and unfortunately let go of. For him to come back and to prove to everyone why he deserved to be at Arsenal would really be a magical story. And I think with Eze, he will bring magic to the stadium and magic to the football club with his footballing abilities and with his experience and expertise and all the things he's learned throughout his time playing football in the youth stages at Arsenal while playing for Crystal Palace, and potentially coming back he'll be able to really deliver a show at the Emirates. But yeah, that is my thoughts. Those are my suggestions. If you agree with what I have to say, disagree with what I have to say, maybe you might think that Eze isn't really the answer, who knows. But hopefully please like and subscribe, and hope to see you soon in the next video. That's it for now.